Hey, dear old friends, welcome back to the Parker's Couch. I know it's been a minute for a video. I hope all of you are out there surviving the turn of spring and allergy season isn't whipping you down like it's been whipping my ass. I tell you, it's been quite a season, y'all. But we are here, and I am glad that the weather is turning around. Come Sunday here in DC, it's going to hit those 80s, and we're going to have that streak of 80s for a while and high 70s. And I feel like we are finally here. It's finally come around. All right. Make sure you are following the Parker's Couch. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you're listening on TikTok, as this is also going to be on there, subscribe and follow on there for more content. I tell you, I posted a Nymphia win video on TikTok. And for y'all that don't know, that's Drag Race, for the drag racers out there who just won. Um, and y'all tore that video up. That thing is pushing almost 200K. Y'all love that girl. So I guess Rue and the team, they made a good decision. But follow on all platforms. You can follow me on Facebook under Cameron Parker and Instagram CDParker03. And also follow my brother, Carlin Parker 1978 on Instagram. Now, let's get down to some business. Oh, before we get there, also follow our podcast. We took off this week, but we'll be back next week. We do a weekly podcast that's on all major platforms. Go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Amazon. Podbean is the host if you get your podcast through Podbean, but it's the Parker's Couch. And follow us as it's my brother and I, and then our oldest brother comes in most of the time and also discusses with us various sports topics, hot topics, things of that nature. It's a fun time. So come and relax and enjoy with the Parkers anytime you want. Now today, what I want to do is get into Meg the Stallion. Now, I did break down the Diddy's lawsuit, Little Rod lawsuit against Diddy, which that thing just keeps going. We got to do a Diddy update because it just keeps going and going and going. What's going on there? So we might have that in the works or something. But I had such a good time reading through that lawsuit. It was my first time reading the lawsuit and kind of seeing what's there and getting to see what's written on the paper versus the headlines you see out there. Recently, we have seen that Megan Thee Stallion is in the headlines for being sued by Emilio Garcia for various things. So I want to get into this lawsuit. It's shorter than the Diddy lawsuit. I think I'm just going to do it in one video. We're going to see. I haven't even actually read it because I'm reading it for the first time with you this time, unlike the Diddy where I read kind of beforehand, and came back and read. So we're going to go through this together with this one. Um, but yes, I'm going to share my screen here. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So this way, I'm just going to share the lawsuit as we go through it together as a family. Yes. And now let's get the view where I like that view. Okay, so y'all can read it there or at least have some context for what I'm talking about here as I read through it. Now, this is Emilio Garcia is the plaintiff, and being sued, we have Rock Nation, Hot Girl Touring, and Megan Thee Stallion Entertainment. Megan Thee Stallion Entertainment, and also Megan Thee Stallion, the individual. Now, there are 9 complaints that are a part of this case. It's involving hostile work environment harassment, failure to prevent and remedy. And then let's see, 3 through 8 are a host of different labor code violations, which I'm sure we'll get into the lawsuit to understand what those are. And then the last one is a violation of California business and professions. So I'm sure we'll get into that once we get into our cause of action. Don't y'all remember we learned what a cause of action was last time in these lawsuits, and that's essentially the reasons, the why for the lawsuit and what it enables it to go on as they detail. I'm going to bypass the introduction, as this kind of just setting up the plaintiff and and the defendant and stuff in there. And kind of, we're gonna kind of hit some of that stuff again. Let's go down to, and then let's talk about the parties involved, which we already mentioned up there. Let's see, how's it is labeled. Okay, factual allegations. So this is where the lawsuit seems to be kind of starting here and getting into it. So let's read from here. Y'all ready? Let's buckle up and let's go. On or around June 2022, the plaintiff, we know Amelia Garcia, was traveling on tour with Stallion, and that's Megan. They're going to refer to her just as Stallion, it looks like in this lawsuit. But they were traveling in Ibiza, Spain after a night out. Plaintiff, Stallion, and three other women were riding in an SUV together. Suddenly, Stallion and one of the other women start having sex right beside the plaintiff. Plaintiff could not get out of the car, and it was both moving, and he was in the middle of nowhere in a foreign country. Plaintiff was embarrassed, mortified, and offended throughout the whole ordeal. The following day, Stallion inquired whether plaintiff was in the SUV in the previous night. Plaintiff confirmed that he was in the SUV. Subsequently, Stallion instructed, "Don't ever discuss what you saw." Stallion berated and directed her fat shaming comments towards the plaintiff, such as "fat bitch," "spit your food out," and "you don't need to be eaten." After confiding in their makeup artist, Stallion learned of the plaintiff's contemplation of quitting due to Stallion's possessiveness combined with lack of appropriate pay for the amount of time asked of him, as discussed fully below. Later that night, Stallion drunkenly FaceTimed the plaintiff, and after the plaintiff expressed his belief he was being underpaid for the amount of hours actually asked of him, they reached an understanding, with Stallion affirming, "We're good," despite the conversation. Plaintiff remained scheduled for Stallion's upcoming gigs for the following Friday. Nevertheless, on or around June 2023, Rod Nation unexpectedly reached out to the plaintiff the night before the scheduled Friday gig and informed him that his services would no longer be required by Stallion. Plaintiff has timely filed a complaint of discrimination with the California Civil Rights Department and obtained a right to sue letter on April 12, 2024. As such, the plaintiff has exhausted his administrative remedies to pursue claims under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. Okay, can we back up for a second on this first part? Because I already have a little bit of questions that's coming to my mind. Let me go back to the screen. I put myself a little bit fuller here. So we got the plaintiff sitting in a car, and let me just make sure I got the scenario down pat. It says three other women were riding an SUV together. Suddenly, Stallion and one of the other women start having sex right beside the plaintiff. And the plaintiff could not get out of the car, and it was moving and in the middle of nowhere, blah, blah, blah. But then later on, it's like Stallion is inquiring. Well, I'm calling her Stallion. Meg is inquiring if the plaintiff was actually in the car or there. So was she? I mean, it's the situation. She was like so intoxicated, like she doesn't even know who was around her. She don't even know who was in the car. They start having sex in a moving car in this middle of nowhere country, and she has no idea that you were even present. Oh, it's just this is wild. Hmm. Okay. It's just some questions kind of circulating and going here. Like this just doesn't make sense to me. But people do get really messed up and stuff and might not know what's going on. But I don't know how you can have full on sex with someone in a car and not know who else is in that car or all around you. Like this is it's another level. Okay. Let's go ahead and do some more reading. Okay, so wage and hour violations. From the inception of his employment, Plaintiff Garcia was misclassified as an independent contractor. while working as a personal cameraman to defend its Stallion. Plaintiff has been treated as an independent contractor by Roc Nation and Stallion Entertainment, so that was effectively denied any of the protections an employee would have under California law. Hmm. Okay. In April 2018, the California Supreme Court is now infamous Dynamet's decision ruled that companies must successfully meet three-prong ABC tests in order to lawfully classify someone as an independent contractor for purposes of wage order claims. So they go through these. So, A, the worker is free from control and direction of hiring entity and performance of the work, both under contract for the performance of the work, and in fact, B, the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business, and C, the worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as the work performed for the hiring entity. All right. On September 18, 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill and it's going into all this stuff about the wage things, which we'll break down. Once we get into cause of actions, it's going to break this down more so it don't be flying over all of our heads, because it's a little flighty right now with what's going on. But for all the relevant times, Stallion controls and directs the work performed by the plaintiff. For all relevant times, Stallion controls and dictates plaintiff's work environment. For all relevant times, Stallion controls and directs the performance of plaintiff who manage no people. For all relevant times, plaintiff essentially worked during all working hours of the day. He was always answering calls and running other tasks under Stallion's direction. The plaintiff used his personal device to stay updated on his schedule, which blurred the lines between work and personal time for the plaintiff. More than once, Stallion interrupted the plaintiff during dinner and demanded that he immediately shift his focus to assist with her TikTok creative ideas. That isn't his job description. I thought he's a cameraman. I'm confused. The plaintiff stepped away from dinner and worked on the phone in a quiet space of a given restaurant. Now that is your problem. I the way that people just, I'm sorry, I gotta break, because I don't understand. I don't care who the person is. No one is gonna work me like a slave and make these demands, especially if it's not in my contract or if I'm not being paid properly already. You think I'm gonna go the extra mile for you? Oh no, ma'am. But okay, that's me. As a personal cameraman, plaintiff was forced to take on a myriad of duties and work much longer hours. Specifically, plaintiff worked in excess of 50 hours under the close scrutiny and explicit discretion of Stallion, who continuously contacted plaintiff at all hours, directing him to brainstorm TikTok videos, to edit content the plaintiff had not captured, and complete various assignments. For all relevant times, Stallion controls and directs the performance of plaintiff's work, who does not provide personal cameraman services independently of his relationship with Stallion. Stallion specifically told the plaintiff he was not allowed to service any other client other than herself on more than one occasion. Initially, the plaintiff was paid a monthly flat rate of $4,000 while working for Roc Nation and Stallion Entertainment. Ooh, that's it. Okay. However, on or around August 2022, Desiree Perez, the chief executive officer of Roc Nation, personally contacted the plaintiff to alter plaintiff's compensation structure from a monthly rate to a pay per task system, invoice for each assignment. Despite this change, the time expectation of the plaintiff remained the same as before Roc Nation's demand to change the plaintiff's pay. However, the new invoicing system resulted in plaintiffs earning significantly less, as the invoice amounts did not accurately reflect the true time and effort dedicated to working for her. Okay, so y'all said they was trying to pull a fast one. We ain't gonna pay you this flat rate. We're gonna pay you per task, but in between these tasks, we're gonna give you expect all the same things to be done. So you're kind of working for us for free while only being paid for this one specific task. Okay, I get that part. On multiple occasions, Stallion explicitly directed plaintiff to not to engage with other clients, expressing possessiveness over the plaintiff's service as her personal cameraman. Now, is that like written down like a no compete? Like you can't go across. Like if there's something signed, because if there's nothing signed, your words are meaningless to me. I'm still gonna go out there and get other work. So unless there's some kind of signed contract, I don't understand how that holds weight. But for all relevant times, Stallion controls and directs plaintiff's work performance, requiring his constant availability by phone for work related issues, thereby causing severe emotional distress and anxiety for the client, for a plaintiff. Whew. Okay, y'all. Phone calls that's causing anxiety. All right. During his travels with Stallion, plaintiff was required to stay at the hotel and be on standby at all times. Any attempt to use the hotel's amenities would prompt Stallion to reach out and request his immediate return. As a result of the misclassification, plaintiff was denied a meal break or rest break. Oh no, ma'am. How you got people? We are not slaves in this country. I don't understand like how this is even how do you even continue in something like this? I don't care. This opportunity wasn't even paying you from what I'm reading. So why are you putting yourself through this? I would have quit that bitch a long time ago. Like a long time ago and took my services elsewhere. But anyway, in addition, the plaintiff was not paid meal or rest break premiums during his entire employment. You out here traveling and everything with them, and you're not getting any paid meals or rest breaks. Woo! For all relevant times, Stallion controls and directs the performance of plaintiff's duties, did not qualify him exempt for purposes of overtime law. During the entirety of his employment with Stallion, the plaintiff was denied overtime pay at an overtime rate. Plaintiff was not paid for hours worked in excess of in an excess of 8 hours in a day. For all relevant times, plaintiff was not paid time and a half for any overtime he worked or paid after the paycheck was thus underpaid for all hours worked to the extent the pay did not meet labor code requirements. Yeah, that's why I'm interested about the labor codes because I know some people can get over with that overtime, especially if you're paid a flat rate on a job or if you have a salary. Overtime is not included, like from my understanding, a lot of times. So I'm curious kind of how this goes against labor law violations in regards to overtime. And maybe that gets back to how the plaintiff was classified, going into this job. For all relevant times, plaintiff was not paid time and a half for all overtime's work on the periods he received wages late. Not receiving your pay late at, and not getting paid. During the entirety of his employment with Stallion, plaintiff's hours of employment were not properly recorded due to purposeful misclassification of plaintiff as an independent contractor and inaccurate work records controlled by defendants. Moreover, during the entirety of his employment with Stallion, plaintiff was denied his meal and rest breaks for compensation for overtime's work, subjected to inaccurate timekeeping by Stallion, which resulted in inaccurate wage statements. Stallion misclassification of his employment status left him without basic insurance coverage, depriving him of any essential health care. Plaintiff grapples with mounting anxiety, depression, and physical distress stemming from the toxic work environment, compounded by the trauma of unpaid work. Oh gosh, y'all, this kills me. Like, it's some grimy people out there. Like, all right, if allegedly this is true, Meg, this some bullshit. Rock Nation, Hot Girl Entertainment, all y'all. That's like how you treat people like dogs like that. And that don't make no sense. And if it is true, you, sir, Emilio, like, why do you put yourself through this? Who does all this work and not get paid? Who's not keeping up with their own hours work? If somebody's messing up my time and trying to account for something that's no, I'm gonna have a document of my times. clocking in and out, especially if it's not if it's something outside of my work. You need to establish if I'm getting paid for this first. Like, you got to ask these questions. I don't know. I see, like, I think people be intimidated, and I get it. I used to be that way with work, but no, I would not. You got to ask questions. Insurance, like, you would know this stuff kind of going in. Like, if you know the job, insurance is one of the things before you accept something. Am I getting coverage? You know, so if you were not getting coverage and you decide to go through with a job, I don't understand like how that comes back on them personally. You know what you signed up for. It's not one of those things. But that's the end of the first little summary of everything. And we're gonna get into our calls of actions. I'm actually gonna take a little pause break and go get me some coffee. See y'all in like a few seconds. Okay, we're back, y'all. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Had to go get some coffee real quick because I feel like we are about to get into some stuff here. Oh man, just in case I got to do some reading, I got to be prepared. All right, first cause of action, and we have 9 of these, and the first one is regarding a hostile work environment, harassment, and violation of FEHA. All right. The plaintiff incorporates by reference and realleges each of the foregoing paragraphs. At all times mentioned in this complaint, defendants regularly employed 5 or more persons, bringing defendants within the provisions of California's Fair Employment and Housing Act. Defendant Stallion's conduct created a hostile work environment for the plaintiff, making the conditions of his employment intolerable in direct contravention of various statutes and state law decisions, including but not limited to California Government Code 940. On or around July 2018, plaintiff Garcia began his employment with defendant Stallion as personal cameraman. Wow, y'all hear that? July 2018 was how long this person has been employed. On or around June 2022, plaintiff was traveling on tour with Stallion in Ibiza, Spain, after a night out. Plaintiff, Stallion, and 3 other women were riding in an SUV together. Suddenly, Stallion and one of the other women start having sex right beside the plaintiff. The following day, Stallion inquired whether plaintiff was in the SUV the previous night. Plaintiff confirmed that he was in the SUV. Subsequently, Stallion instructed, "Don't ever discuss what you saw." During the same trip, Stallion berated and directed her fat shaming comments towards the plaintiff, such as "fat bitch," "spit your food out," and "that you don't need to be eaten." Following Ibiza on or around August 2022, Perez altered plaintiff's compensation structure from a monthly rate to a pay per task system, invoice for each assignment. Despite this change, plaintiff remained accountable and was expected to provide the same level of service to Stallion. Moreover, the plaintiff noticed a change in how he was treated and saw a decrease in the number of bookings he received from Stallion. Close to the other creatives on Stallion's team, plaintiff confided in Stallion's former makeup artist about considering leaving because Stallion had started to hire another cameraman. Such harassment was so severe or pervasive that it altered the terms and conditions of the plaintiff's employment, creating a hostile, abusive work environment and making his work conditions intolerable. Said harassment was sufficiently extreme to amount to a change in the terms and conditions of plaintiff's employment. As a direct and legal result of defendant's conduct in each of them, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer general, consequential, and special damages, including but not limited to substantial loss in earnings, other employment benefits, physical injuries, physical sickness, as well as emotional distress, plus medical expenses, future medical expenses, and attorney fees, all to her damages that in the amount according to proof. During the entirety of his employment with Stallion, plaintiff endured a barrage of relentless sexual and fat shaming comments plunging him into profound emotional distress. Stallion's misclassification left her without basic insurance coverage, depriving him of essential mental and physical health care. Plaintiff grapples with mounting anxiety, depression, and physical distress stemming from the toxic work environment. This thing is confusing me how it's going from her to him. It's a little weird. But said actions justify the imposition of punitive damages in the defendants committed in that defendants committed the acts herein maliciously, fraudulently, and oppressively with the wrongful intention of injuring plaintiff from an improper and from an improper and evil motives amount to malice and unconscious disregard of plaintiff's rights. Based upon the foregoing, plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damages from defendants and each of them in the amount according to proof. As the result of defendants' discriminatory acts as alleged herein, plaintiff is entitled to reasonable attorney fees and cost of suit as provided. What y'all think? This incident, y'all think this incident happened for real? Liking this? I want to ask y'all one thing. If you are riding in a car with a bunch of people and they start to have sets right beside you, are you going to remain quiet or are you going to say something? I'm just curious. I'm not, and I don't know. Some of these cases just got to come a little bit stronger, just with common sense of I just put myself in a situation and what I do and how I act. You've known this person since 2018. This is 2022. Yeah, I would think there's some kind of rapport, some kind of work relationship, something that's kept you on this job for 4 years. I don't understand. Like, was it always underpaid? Was it always this and that? And then to say like they changed the task, it seems like according to the situation, and started treating you like shit accordingly. But then supposedly there were comments made throughout your tenure. Why are you putting up with this? I just have a lot of why questions when it comes to these lawsuits. Like it just don't. But I get it. Livelihood, job, what you're thinking about, I could bear through, gut it out. I try to think and relate to my situations and some stuff I put up with before on jobs, before I gave my, before I found a voice. And sometimes you get trapped in situations. I understand that. But this is heavy. Nothing like this. Ain't nobody gonna be fat shaming me and saying all this stuff or making sexual um comments and stuff toward me that I don't want. Like that's another level of taking disrespect. I don't know, y'all. It's I don't know what I feel. But let's continue on and let me change the screen back. I just realized I didn't change that back for y'all. All right. The second cause of action: failure to prevent and remedy harassment in violation of FEHA. Let's see. Anything new here? You know how we get a lot of it gets repetitive. All right, they're telling the story again here. On or around June 2022, plaintiff was traveling on tour with Stallion in Ibiza, Spain after a night out. Plaintiff, Stallion, and three other women were riding in the SUV together. Suddenly, Stallion and one of the other women start having sex right beside plaintiff. I just feel like something is missing in this story. Like it just feels like some details. Something isn't here. Um, and they go through the whole thing. Following day, fat shame. All right, so this is repetitive. No new information there. All right, so they didn't have this part. After confiding in the makeup artist, Stallion learned of the painter's contemplation of quitting due to a lack of bookings. Later on a Sunday night, Stallion drunkenly FaceTimed the plaintiff, and they reached an understanding with Stallion, affirming we're good. Despite the conversation, plaintiff remained scheduled for Stallion's upcoming gig for the following Friday. Nevertheless, on or around June 2023, Rot Nation unexpectedly reached out to the plaintiff the night before the scheduled Friday gig and informed him that the services would no longer be required. This makeup artist is talking, huh? I guess you you spilling some secrets to the makeup artist, and the makeup artist went right back to Meg and let her know what was going on and what you was thinking. You gotta be careful about who you're talking to on the job now. As a approximate result of the aforesaid acts of defendants, and each of them plaintiff has suffered actual, consequential, and incidental financial loss, including without limitation loss of salary and benefits and an intangible loss of employment related opportunities in this field, blah, blah, blah. Going through some of the stuff, they go through the emotional distress, humiliation, mental anguish, all those things. All right, let's go to the third cause. But one of the first violations of the labor code. This is the misclassification, which seems to be a big deal with this case. Um, in April 2018. Oh wait, no, that's back at that decision. We don't. We already read that at the beginning. Let's see anything new here. All right. So, as a personal cameraman, plaintiff was forced to take on a myriad of duties and work much longer hours. Specifically, the plaintiff worked in an excess of 50 hours under the close scrutiny and explicit discretion of Stallion, who continuously contacted the plaintiff at all hours, directing him to brainstorm TikTok videos and to edit the content the plaintiff had not captured. Um, and we went through that stuff. So, for all the relevant time, Stallion controls and directs the performance of the plaintiff's work, who does not provide personal cameraman services independently of his relationship with Stallion. After all, how could he, when he was constantly working to satisfy the demands of the job that he performed with for Stallion? Y'all say that this has talking like he was working nonstop around the clock. Is there no one else on the team? I'm just confused. He's sounds more like a personal assistant or a do everything than just a cameraman. And if all this is true right here, where it says initially the plaintiff was paid a monthly flat rate of 4,000, like that is peanuts, especially for doing all this while working for Rot Nation and Stallion Entertainment. However, on or around August 2022, that's when they go into the restructuring of the pay that we talked about before. But they said it still wasn't accurately reflecting the time that he was working. On multiple occasions, Stallion explicitly directed the plaintiff not to engage with other clients. All right, this part I don't understand, because are you just doing that out of a good? Even if Megan did say that, are you following that just because of a relationship, or you feel like you should? Because I'd be like, no, ma'am, I'm not. I that doesn't make any sense. I'm not entitled to you, and you only. It doesn't seem like that's why this person was hired to be. But if he was, then you need to renegotiate a pay structure. I'd be like, if you want to be all to yourself, we got to work on this pay then. Let's see. Anything else new here? Yeah, that's the hotel. We talked about that. No rest breaks and all that. The overtime. So that's reasserting those same claims. So this part I'm trying. All right, so I'm trying to get this misclassification. Let's see if this clears it up. All right, during the entirety of his employment with Stallion, plaintiff's hours of employment were not properly recorded due to purposeful misclassification of plaintiff as an independent contractor and inaccurate work records controlled by defendants. So he's saying he's not an independent contractor, and them labeling you as that. That's how they get away with not giving the benefits and things of that nature. But then that also is, you're not beholden just to that one person in that. So you can't pigeonhole me. If you're going to label me an independent contractor, I'm going to be independent then, and I'm going to go about my business and make my money in all the places I need. And anything outside of this job that you're trying to get me to do, I'm not going to do. It is not in our contract. I'm confused. All right. Moreover, during the entirety of his employment with Stallion, plaintiff was denied his meals and rest breaks and compensation for overtime hours work subjected to inaccurate timekeeping by Stallion. And I think if you are an independent contractor, then it seems like you would get overtime. Somebody can correct me on that if you know, but it seemed like I'd be able to charge you. Like I'm gonna be invoicing you of my hours work. I'm confused at how this whole thing is working. The structure is just not it's not making sense to me, y'all. Stallion's misclassification of his employment status left him without basic insurance coverage, depriving him of essential health care. Plaintiff grapples with, but I don't know how it is in California. If you don't make a certain amount, or if you don't have there's the healthcare system. I know here in DC, anytime like I'm going through unemployment now, for instance, and so I'm able to get like Medicaid and things like that, and there are ways I'm able to be insured through the state. And even if I was working on a job, you can go through the exchanges, and based on your pay rate, like you get affordable. There are ways, and maybe DC is different than other places, but I know states operate differently, so I don't know how California is, but I feel like you would have been able to find some basic insurance coverage. It's out there. I don't know. I don't know, y'all. But you got to have some kind of agency to do those things. I don't mean to be sound like I'm just coming for the person making this lawsuit, but because if these things are true, like it is awful, and this is no way to run a business, and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that people run businesses this way. Like I'm just really ashamed. But at the same time, I gotta ask those why questions. It just makes me like wonder who puts themselves in these situations to continually go through them. It's just not making sense. All right, the next labor code: failure to provide meals and rest periods. All right, let's see, because that's been alleged a few times. Let's see if they say anything different here. Let's see. Plaintiff is informed and believe that the IWC wage orders were in full force and effect and govern with when employers, including defendants, must give employee breaks for meal and rest periods. The wage order states in pertinent part state and pertinent part that employers must provide at least 30 minutes of meal periods for every 5 hours of work, and another 30-minute period if the work period is 10 hours or more. Furthermore, the IWC wage order states in pertinent part that employers must be given at least 10-minute rest period for every 4 hours or major fraction thereof. I don't understand how you could be working around the clock nonstop without taking a rest break or meal break. Like, no, ma'am. Mm-mm. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Ain't no way that's gonna happen. Ain't no way somebody gonna stop me from taking a break when I need one. But it says during the entirety of employment, the hours were not recorded properly due to purposeful misclassification. Back to that again. As a result, was not permitted to take rest and meal breaks. Many times, the plaintiff worked over 5 consecutive hours without a 30-minute meal break. Take a break. Like a lot of the stuff you're doing is sitting, right? Like editing and doing stuff like that. Like, take a break. Stop it. It's gonna be okay for the future. I'm telling you that, like, if this is true, they need to pay for it. But in the future, don't put yourself in situations like this, Emilio. You take breaks. Let's see. Fifth cause of action: unpaid overtime. So we kind of talked about that too already. I don't see if there's anything new. We know the 8 hours, blah blah blah. So it's saying the plaintiff used his personal device to stay updated on the schedule, which intensified, blurred the lines between work and personal time for the plaintiff. People, you have got to cut off work and personal. Like if it's a must, depending on your job, like to have some kind of work things on your personal phone, you can do that, but you got to do that with reason. Like you got to let people know you're not available 24/7. Like that is not what this is at all. And there are very few jobs that I feel like require that. There are some that definitely require that, especially when it comes to stuff like the safety of our nation. People who want to take on that role. But for hot girl entertainment, Rock Nation, Megan Thee Stallion, making TikTok videos, you think I need to be present 24/7 to do that? Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. And I'm not your personal assistant. I'm not taking phone calls and doing all this stuff. Are we talking about a pay raise? Are we renegotiating right here? So I'm confused. I'm really confused. And all this stuff, brainstorming, TikTok video, blah blah blah. Like, as someone who wants to be a well, considers myself a content creator now at this point, and who understands what that thought is like to constantly be thinking about content and ideas and what to do and all these things. It's not, I don't know, like if that's not in you, it's a part of that that never shuts off. I'm trying to think how to say it. Like it's a part of that that is going to be a continuous work period because it's always going to be in you and thinking of ideas and things of that nature. But to be required, I don't get what the requirement is. What are you supposed to be producing? What are you supposed to be showing that's tangible? Because no one is out there making videos nonstop. You're like, you just need to make something of quality and get it there. But and this can't be like divided up into other people on the team, or Meg, you don't have somebody special for social media. Like this is your personal cameraman. Um, I just got a lot of questions. Like a lot of this is just not making sense to me of how you run an organization or how I would structure it or how I would even act as an employee. Let's see. Yeah, they talk about the flat rate of 4,000. We're still in the overtime and the pay, the pay per task always available. So essentially, this person is saying they were never not working, was always on standby, and especially at the hotels and things of that nature when they would be traveling. Like you stayed on standby 24/7. Denied meal breaks, rest breaks, and compensation for overtime. Da 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 da. All right, let's see what the next one is. Nothing really is new there. The six cause inaccurate wage statements. So I don't understand why you ones are keeping up with your own time. You're an independent contractor. Like I don't. Well, you say it's a misclassification, but then they classify you as one. Then I'm gonna act as one, and I'm gonna be billing you. I don't know. All right, let's see. I was not properly recorded. Da 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 da. Nothing new there. And a lot of this stuff is just going into more detail of like some of the legal codes and the labor codes and stuff of California, which I'm not even going to pretend I even know what they're talking about there. But it's saying how Megan is personally liable and some of these other ones. The seventh causes waiting time penalties. What does this mean? I guess wait. Oh, like because some of the pay was late. So and it says plaintiff's paychecks did not include all the wages owed to the plaintiff, as the defendant failed to pay for meal and rest break premiums, as well as overtime pay the plaintiff was entitled to. Plaintiff is entitled to recover from defendant's additionally occurring wages for each day not paid at the regular daily rate of pay up to 30 days of maximum pursuant to California labor codes. Y'all not paying? Oh, yeah, especially you out here on the road and doing these things. You better be getting some per diem. You better be getting some paid meals. I don't understand. That's not making sense to me. Like we're gonna have these discussions before we travel, and it only takes one time. one time for me to get screwed over with that. You think I'm going back on the road with you? Or you think I'm going back and doing these things if I'm not getting it? Mm-mm. The eighth cause of action regards, let's see, violation of labor code. It's just kind of generic and going through repeating. It's repeating a lot of the same things here and stuff. I don't get what the little nuance difference is, but it's literally going through everything that we kind of talked about. And the ninth cause, the last one, it's the same thing. Kind of, it's almost like recapping different parts of everything we discussed and look like it's some new labor codes and stuff out there and legal terminology that I'm not even caring to get into and taxes and things of that nature. But here at the end it says for so the prayer part, which I thought this was interesting, and I'm a actually let me see if I can pull up exactly what it was. So prayer, when it says that, because I was confused with what that was the first time and I had looked it up. So it says prayer is a term that has various meanings, but in the legal context, it refers to the specific amount claimed as damages at the end of a complaint or petition. So I was like, oh, that's what that means. So this is the specific amount. So it says one for damages according to proof, including unpaid wages, for interest, two for interest on the amount of unpaid wages and other employees' benefits at the prevailing legal rate, three for general unpaid wages at overtime wage rates and such general and special damages as may be appropriate, four for statutory penalties pursuant to California labor codes, five for statutory wage penalties pursuant to California Labor Code, six for restitution of unpaid wages to plaintiff and prejudgment interest for the day such amounts were due and payable, and seven for punitive damages according to proof. Eight for costs incurred by plaintiff, including reasonable attorney fees and cost of suit and obtaining the benefits due plaintiff for violations, and nine for each for such other and further relief as the court deems just and proper. And they're demanding a jury trial as well for this. And plaintiff hereby demands trial by jury. We'll see. We'll see if it ends up being anything or not. Curious what y'all feel, what you think. Is this legitimate? Are y'all believing it? Should this go to jury? And Megan and others have to prove themselves what's going on. I swear, Megan is always in something. Always in something. Mm, I do have a lot of questions about this, but regardless, I will say this: regardless of my whys and everything I got to say regarding the plaintiff is still entitled to get whatever deserved if this is true. If these things happen in this manner, even though my actions may have been different going through the steps, at the end of the day, you still deserve um what's owed to you because we're not slaves and no one deserves to be mistreated that way. And that we should be paid and compensated fairly. And it was set, things like this was set some sort of precedent going forward, like how people handle people in business. You can't just be shortchanging people all the time. But I need people to make noise early on. Don't be waiting 4 or 5 years later or wait till some big incident happen. You got to be on this from the start and call these people out. If this happening, get your name in the street so nobody wants to work for you. Like, no, unless you want to work and not get paid and just be overstretched, I'm good on it. So handle y'all business out there. Y'all stay well, work hard, play harder, and treat each other fairly. It's not so hard to live by the golden rule. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. That is not hard at all. If we just have that simple principle, I mean, things would be a lot smoother and easier in life. All right. So that's my Meg recap. Tomorrow, Friday, I will be doing a little recap of some kind of thoughts of things that I've seen going on to give my kind of little viewpoints and talk about it. And expect our podcast to return for next week to hear from the Parkers. But definitely like, subscribe, follow on whatever platform you are. Find our podcast out there on Spotify, Amazon, all these things. We want it to grow and continue and flourish and for y'all to be a part of the journey. But love y'all and later, tater tots.